When people ask me the kind of guests I bring on guests that I really like, that do things that I really appreciate, that I have a passion for, not just any old guest. All I get pitched guests all the time, but I like to have guests on that do things or supply things that I actually use. And today's guest, I have to say, makes a product that I use almost every day. I can actually say that. I can actually say that this man's product is product that I listen to probably every day that I'm in New York and I'm listening to my hi-fi system. This guy's product is something that's on my system. He's not a musician, he's a record guy, but people use the phrase record person, people think it's a record company president or it's an A&R guy, someone having to do with the artist itself. And in this particular case, it's not that. In this particular case, this is the gentleman that actually makes the record, actually creates the vinyl. His company, Acoustic Sounds, I have been buying from. I can't tell you how many years I've been buying from Acoustic Sounds, but I will say this: nothing makes me happier than getting a package from Acoustic Sounds. Nothing brings a smile to my face more than getting a package from Acoustic Sounds. When my wife says to me, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "I just want albums. I really don't give a shit about anything else. At this point in my life, I really don't care. I want vinyl. And when I get a package from Acoustic Sounds, it's either vinyl that I want or maybe SACDs. But this is the guy whose company provides the services that I love every day. So please welcome to the JJ French Connection, the man who controls, runs, and is going to talk about his history in the record business, Mr. Chad Kassem. Welcome, Chad.
How's it going, JJ?
I'm fine, man. I hope you appreciated that because it's true. It's dead true,
No,
Chad.
no, man. I mean, hey, I was just gonna say that's a hell of an introduction. I don't know if I ever had an introduction like that, but as happy as you are to get the packages, I'm happy to hear that you're happy to get the packages. Because I mean, we put everything into it. You know what I mean? That we can to try to make the best. And when we hear those kind of comments, it feels so good. It makes it all worth it. All the shit you got to go through. It makes it worth it to hear that. Especially coming from somebody like you that I know has a hell of a collection, and I know that has spent his whole life in music, in almost every area of the music business. So if we can impress you, we're impressing everybody, and it really feels good. It feels good to do that. You mispronounced my name, and I'm not. I don't get offended. Okay, I mean,
Okay.
I'm like, I'm from Louisiana. You ain't nothing you can say offends me. So, but it makes me think of something. I'm into the blues, and there's that Chess album. That there's gonna be some news from Chess. I don't know when you're releasing this. It'll probably the news will be on the 25th. But
Wait, Chad, can I just say this one thing before you continue? I want people to understand your company, Acoustic Sounds, manufactures, actually prints the vinyl, actually makes the vinyl, and is responsible for the renaissance of audiophile vinyl. You're one of the main pillars of the renaissance. So what you did was you risked everything to do something that nobody really wanted to do 30, 40 years ago when they thought albums were dead and they were buying CDs. You said, no, the vinyl medium is a superior medium. I believe in this shit and I'm going to keep going at it. So that's what I want people to understand as we get into the more specific nature of this interview is why I love this man and his company is because they're the ones that actually put the pedal to the metal. You actually print the damn records. You make sure that they're equalized correctly. You make sure that the plating process is correct. You make sure that every aspect of making it, and people don't understand the technology involved and having to make sure that you get a premium product. And nothing gets me more annoyed, and I know you're going to agree with me, when someone says, "Why are albums so expensive?" I used to pay $3.99, and I'm thinking to myself, "What are you, a dumb fuck? What in 1970 you paid $3.99? That's right. In 1970 you bought a car for $3,500, motherfucker. Now you're paying $50,000 for that car. In 1970 you're paying like 25 cents to get on a subway in Manhattan. Now you're paying $3 fucking. I mean, what do you think? Everything is supposed to go up, but a record album is supposed to stick in your fucking head? $3.99 forever? Fuck no. That is a completely stupid, arithmetic, moronic evaluation that nothing drives me crazier. They go, well, it's $35 or $40. Well, what the fuck do you think it's supposed to be? You think that the guys who work for Chad are working for the same money that they were getting paid in 1970? I don't fucking think so. Chad, am I making my point here for you?
Oh, dude, man. I mean, everything you said is 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 true, and like it. And sometimes I don't think people realize. I mean, you had to be, and you had to be here in 1984 is when I got to Salina. That's the year CDs came out. Well, the whole world was going against the LP, and the whole world's going this way, and there's like me and Fremer and just a couple others going against the grain. And I remember all this, man, because I was cooking for minimum wage then. I mean, I didn't see the future, man. I didn't see the future. And people ask me all the time, how did you know? And I'm like, I didn't. I was attracted to what I believed. And I was just doing the little I could to try to keep vinyl going. You know what I mean? I didn't really, people go, well, man, how did you see all this coming? And I said, I didn't, I said, I trusted my ears. You got to trust your ears, right? You got to trust something. I trusted my ears, but I didn't see this coming. But I did spend every dollar I had and every waking hour there was in the day like I knew that this was happening. Isn't that weird that I reinvested every dollar I had? I reinvested every moment of the day like I knew this was happening. And now it's happening, which I still can't believe. I mean, you got to admit, it's unbelievable that this is happening. I mean, it should be happening, but we're still lucky that it did. And I still can't believe it. But, we were going against the grain, and we knew it, right? But nobody, but it's funny to see the people coming back in. Oh, I believed in vinyl the whole time. I'm like, yeah, sure you did, pal. You were the first son of a gun I saw running. And now that it's back happening again, oh, you're all about the vinyl. Okay, well, come in because we appreciate you. We need you now. But, let's
You're
just
returning
remember,
to the church, but don't tell me you've been going to the church for the last 40 years. Thank you very, much.
You're welcome back to Mass.
Welcome back in the church. Come back.
You're welcome back. We know you committed a few sins, but hey, we'll forgive you. Come back, and we all commit sins. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, and that probably happens. I bet you the preachers see that every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Chad, I'm doing a story for Fremer, as a matter of fact, on a particular line of audio gear, some TX stuff, which is incredible value for the money. And the point I'm trying to make here is that I kind of went on my computer. I said, back in 1973 or 72, my stereo was about $3,000 back in those days. And for $3,000, I had a JBL.
I want to know what it is.
I had like JBL 100s. I had Citation 1112 amp and preamp. I had a Revox reel to reel. I had a Thorens table. Nice stuff for the time. Really good.
Yeah.
$3,000 today is 120. Excuse me, is $23,000. 3,000 in 1972 today is now 23,000. So, folks, if you want to worry about the economics of inflation, that's the economics of inflation. So don't hold that against records because they shouldn't be. Now, here's an interesting thing too, Chad. Do people say this to you? This is what they say to me. This is a whole new thing. They go, yeah, I got my vinyls. I got my what? I got my, excuse me, what are you talking about? You got vinyl flooring? What the fuck you talking about? No, man, I got all my vinyls. I went, what do you mean? My records, my records. When did they start using that phrase? I got my vinyls. Have you heard that phrase, man?
Yeah, but it isn't an old phrase. That just happened in the last few years because
It's
I'd never
happening
heard that.
among people that I know now. Okay. No, now tell me this. 1984 comes, first CDs come out. I
Yeah.
remember we're recording Stay Hungry. My producer walks in, Tom Werman, with a CD. I believe it was The Police, Every Breath You Take. I believe it was that album, 1983, 84, somewhere around there. He puts it on, this new player, a Sony 101, puts it in and turns it on. And I thought it sounded like crap. And I was like, wow, man, that's like harsh. Like, what's up with the EQ, right? I didn't know, I wasn't blaming the medium yet. I just thought he didn't have the EQs going correctly. So let me ask you, what was your reaction when you heard CDs the first time?
Well, I mean, I have to admit, like most other people, I was blinded by the science. You know what I mean? Like, here comes a little disc. There's no ticks and pops. I mean, I noticed the good of it. There's no ticks and pops. It's clean. It's too clean, but you got to remember, a lot of us didn't take care of our records. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
Most people didn't.
That's true.
So if you're going to compare, like a dirty, scratched up record to a brand new CD, there's going to be some things that the CD wins at. Even if the EQ is bad, you're going to be like, and you're going to notice those things. And then you're, like I said, you're blinded by science. I have to admit, I didn't really um, immediately go, oh my God. I was like, I'm still like, wow, look at that thing. Look how cool. Look how small. Listen how clean. And one of my favorite sayings is you put on a CD and even dogs leave the room. What you notice is you'll put on a CD. How many times have you ever listened to a complete CD sitting down in your chair?
Yeah, almost never, man.
Never.
Almost.
It's too long. The record was invented, like it just so happens that a side of a record is almost, to me, the exact amount of time you can give your mind to the music. Like, it's 20 minutes. You can get ready, you can do the ritual, you can clean the record, clean your stylus, put on the record, you and a friend or yourself, you listen to the side of a record. It's perfect amount of time to be able to relax and give yourself to that record and let that record come into your body, and a CD is just too long. So, I've never cried listening to a CD. The hair on my arms uh, have never
Never
risen
come. Right.
from listening to a CD, and I've never listened to a whole CD. And what you notice, and like I didn't notice this all the first time I listened to a CD. Like you notice you walk out of the room and you go do something else. You clean or you do something. Subconsciously, it does. A CD, an album draws you into the music. It pulls you in. And a CD pushes you out of the room. And this has all happened subconsciously. You don't even realize it, right? And
But
it took
Chad,
a
do you
while.
also think that's a great point? That is a great point. But you also think that part of it is that we know when you play a record, the end of the side, you got to take the arm off, so you don't venture too far away from the album either. I mean, I think there's a built-in kind of relationship you have with your record player, is what I'm saying, and you want to stay fairly close to it. You know what I mean? So I think, but I never thought about the point you just made. The perfect amount of attention, 20 to 25 minutes. It's the side of a record. And it's perfect. I never thought about that way. I put most records on, I play the side. But I
Yeah,
play
yeah,
most CDs, I play a track or two. And I take
yeah,
the
yeah.
CD off.
Here's another thing that I thought of. And again, these things come after years of thinking about it. if you think about the most classic records ever made, you know, like the Hendrix Axis Bold as Love, the ZZ Top Tres Hombres, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, where even Stevie Ray's albums, you know, or they're albums that were made before the era of the CD. There's not a whole lot after that that you go, wow. And and the reason I've come up with that is when y'all made, when did the Stay Hungry come? When was that
84,
released?
84,
Huh?
84.
Okay. All right. Well, y'all are probably still thinking back. To me, the bands before 84 weren't thinking about how long a CD was and filling it up. You know, they were thinking about they needed about 7 to 10 songs. They needed about 45 minutes worth of music. And so only the best shit got on the record, right? And when you have the 7 best songs, y'all might have 12 songs, but the best 7
Or
made it.
the best 8 or 9 or 10, and you got like
Yeah, yeah,
15. You got to limit yourself to that shit for
right.
sure.
And so maybe those 3 that weren't as good, you didn't get on the album, and y'all worked on that more later. And maybe y'all had 14 great songs, but you still picked the 7 or 8, 9, 10 best. And when the CD come out, you know, it's kind of the same reason a dog licks his balls. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because he can. You know, you had, you know what I'm saying? You had 14 songs. And so you put him on, right? You 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 can,
Because you can, right? You can.
right? But what happens is in the back of your mind, there's 14 songs, and some of them are going to be weak, right?
Yeah.
So you're not at the end of the CD. You go, I mean, you're like, damn, that was good, but it's kind of long. But if you go at the end of the CD, you go, wow, that was good. I wish I had more of the good, not going, man, it was a little long.
Right.
You know, you're waiting for the next album. Man, when's the next album coming? Right? Not, wow, that was good, but it was a bit
A bit
long.
long. So yeah, yeah. You know what? You make these points that are subtle, and yet, you know, when you're old enough and been through the history of all this stuff, and we are of that age, and we've lived through the history of high end audio. We've lived through the history of rock and roll that we love so much, and your points you make are actually something I never thought about, but you're 100% correct. Do you know that Stay Hungry and I Want to Rock were not the most famous, were not the songs that the record label even, or the producer even wanted on the record at first?
Really?
And now they are the most licensed songs in the history of heavy metal. Those 2 songs are in more movies, TV shows, soundtracks, and commercials than any other band's music in the history of heavy metal. And yet we had to fight to have those songs on the
That's
record.
crazy.
Isn't that
That's
crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, when you hear like a story, what you just said, or you ask an artist, did y'all know what was going to be the hit?
Right.
And they're like, no, we thought this was going to, and you're like, really? Like, seems so easy now with the hindsight. Yeah. But hindsight makes you a smart son of a bitch,
It
man.
certainly does, man. Chad, let me ask you. So 84 comes around. What was the impetus to print the first record or to do the first, what was the first record project you did?
Okay, so I moved from Louisiana to Kansas in '84, and I just started as a cook. I was cooking as a cook. I was working as a cook, and I was just really trying to put my record collection back together. You know what I mean? That's all I was doing. You know, my father said, "Hey, I'm gonna drive your car up to Kansas. Is there anything you want me to bring from Louisiana?" And I couldn't think. I said, "Well, bring my collection, bring my stereo," which, you know, back then everybody had. Well, most people, whether they were jocks or potheads or musicians or freaks, we all had our stereo. We didn't have the computer. You know, we all had that in common. Almost everybody did, right? You had your 100 records, you had your 2 speakers, your receiver, and your turntable. You know, um, I'm like, bring that up. So he brought it up. I started looking at my records. There were records I had when I was partying, right? So there was scratch. So I wanted to upgrade my system and upgrade my record collection. So it took me a few years. You buy, sell, and trade. You buy, sell, and trade. And then I put a little bitty ad in the back of Audio Magazine, about this big, uh, you know, audiophile records for sale. And, I, a friend of mine played an audiophile record for him. And I said, man, I got some of those. I don't hear the fucking difference. And he's like, okay, well, sit in the middle, shut up, and just listen and listen to these. It's very the differences ain't much, you know what I mean? But you gotta listen carefully and explain like some of the things to listen for. I was ready when I played the audiophile record. You remember the hype stickers, the difference, uh, hear the difference, like it'll blow you away. Well, man, I was waiting for the band to jump out of the speakers and play for it. I wasn't listening for the small differences. And so he played it for me and explained like a little bit of the things to listen to. And man, it hit me, it hit me, the differences. And I was like, wow, I finally heard it. The light bulb went off, and that was the beginning of Acoustic Sounds. When that light bulb went off, and I just started collecting these records. So I'd buy, sell, and trade. Well, what's the next natural step? You're selling used records, you're selling the original MoFis, the Herb Belkin Mobile Fidelity, the Nautiluses, the direct-to-disc. What's the next natural step? Reissue your own record. And so from about 86 to 91 is when I reissued my first record. And how that came about is I went to New York to buy a record collection. And the guy lived in West Haven, or maybe Connecticut, or maybe Hartford.
Okay, New Haven, possibly New Haven, West, Connecticut, something
Yeah,
like
maybe
that.
no, maybe Hartford. Is there a West?
I think there's a West Haven, I think there's a New Haven, and there's a Hartford
There
for
might
sure.
be a New Haven. Anyway, it was a really high end neighborhood
Right,
of in Connecticut.
right.
That's like, and I went to this guy's place and I tried to buy the record collection. It didn't work out. Of course, the guy wanted, the moon. So I had like 10, 12,000 cash with me. So now I had nothing to do for 2 days, right? Because the record collection didn't work out. So I went to visit Seymour Solomon at Vanguard. And I said, hey, I want to reissue The Plow That Broke the Plains. Virgil Thompson. It was Stokowski conducted. And he said, well, who are you? What are you? And I said, look, and I put that 12,000 cash on the desk. And it was like I put a gun on the desk. Seymour Solomon back to us. Whoa, no, you don't have to pay cash. I said, no, well, look, I just want you to know, man, here's your advance. He's like, and then he brought me in the other room, and David Baker was playing 3-track tapes, which is one of the best jazz engineers ever. And I met David. I just fell and we became friends like that. And so, that's basically it. Everything was just the next natural step. You sell records, you reissue records. Then in 1994, we did our first recording, which we recorded Jimmy Rogers, who was Muddy Waters' guitar player, and it won the W.C. Handy for the best traditional blues album that year. So everything was the next natural step. Then you get your own mastering, then you get your own pressing, you know what I mean? And then you get your own recording studio and record people. Now we got our own printing facility, our own pressing, our own mastering, our own plating, and we can do everything from the microphone to the distribution of the product. The only thing out of that we don't do, the only thing is make the record jacket. Now we could do that because we have the printing press, but like I say, I got to go to bed sometime at night, man. I just, So we
Uh,
let somebody else make the jackets.
I have a technical question to ask you. So the first time I ever became aware that the same record album could sound different, but not an audiophile. I'm not talking about a MoFi version, because the first MoFi I bought, I think, was a Fleetwood Mac album, and the second MoFi I bought was an Abbey Road, and the third MoFi I bought was an Al Stewart, and they sounded like really good. Like I had a better stereo system, and I could tell the difference. And yes, more bass, quieter, blah blah blah. But in regular commercial records, is it true that a master mother presses roughly 5,000 albums before they switch the plating out for the next one? Is that about right on a
Well,
big
I mean,
selling record?
listen, the only way is you have to be there and see them. You'll never know what a pressing plant does. You know, you just never know. Now, most pressing plants back then, one of the reasons why, the original MoFi sounded better and our records sound better is we do change it. And, typically you change it around 1,000, but sometimes at 500 or 600, you can see the wear. You can see that we pull it off. Instead of going 1,000 on everything, we may go 1,000 if it's running really good. You know what I mean? Maybe 1,100 if there's no signs, right? But if there are signs at 600, we pull it off. So sometimes there's signs 700, you pull it off, and we try to go around 1,000. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
like that's with being in your mind. Hey, around 1,000 is where they start to get degradation. But
What what about like if you're a mega artist, let's say like you're a Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, right? And they got to print zillions of them. Do they do like 3,000, 4,000 for per plate?
Well, I
What do
mean,
you think?
listen, they probably went way over 1,000. You know what I mean? Did they go to 2 or 3,000? Did they go to 5,000? They probably did. But they might have did it on Saturday Night Fever, but they might not have did it on Dark Side, or they might have did it on Dark Side and they didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like every pressing plant, like it's just like this. Everybody's different, right? You got greedy people and you got people that care about quality. And some of the pressing plants probably cared more about quality than some of the greedy people. So you have to just be there. But one thing for sure is they probably went over 1,000, all of them. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right,
And it's just where did they stop? You know what I mean?
right. So
And so, a lot of people too, they'll be like, well, was that mastered from the original master tape? Well, you're just going to have to trust the people that you're dealing with. At some level, there's a bit of trust that you have to have. And you got to recognize who to believe by their past experience. If you get records, if you get our records, if you get analog productions and you're constantly blown away, then you could probably believe what I'm saying. If you get analog productions and you don't like any of them, then maybe you don't believe what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, but at some point, like mastering, unless you're there, do you really, really know what they used to cut the record from?
understood.
Now, I can tell you, we 99% of the time used analog tape. And if we didn't, we tell you. And if we didn't, there's a reason why. Like it was a digital recording, right? So we've done maybe 2% of all the records, I'm just guessing, were digital recordings. But there were great recordings that people wanted. And so we did it and we were up front. Sometimes we can't find the master. So if we can find a really, really good EQ tape copy that's in good condition and we play it and we can beat the original, well, hey, if we can beat the original with the tape copy we have, I think it's good enough to and then we've done our homework and we've exhausted all measures. We looked in Europe. Is there a tape there? We've done everything we could find to do to find the tape, and there's none. Either it was destroyed or it was lost, and we've done our due diligence to find the best copy, and now this is the best copy that exists. Well, now that's the master. If there's no first generation master, and now you're down to a first generation copy, that becomes the master, you know.
Yeah.
So you just don't know when they change the stamper.
The
You know,
reason why the reason why I brought the subject up about how many copies per plate is
yeah,
that the first time I, as a consumer, just as a kid, right? So I go out and I buy a Moody Blues album to our children's children, I think, right? And
I
I buy the
love that
album
record.
and I play it to death. And then somehow I got a scratch in it and I wanted to buy a new copy. And I
Yeah,
went to a store and bought another copy, and it sounded so much better than the copy that I first bought. And I thought, why? And someone explained to me, man, probably that one that you bought was much closer to the beginning of the pressing than towards the end of the pressing. And that's what I'm asking you is, can
right,
you?
right. Well, there's a chance that that could be. But what would really be nice if you still had, I'm sure you don't, but if you still had those two, you could look at the matrix numbers. And if
Okay.
they're the same and one sounds better, then it's definitely because of the stamper issue. But
Okay.
if it's a different mastering or different matrix,
Right.
then chances are it was the mastering. But I love that record. I that love to live to be a million. What is that song?
I don't remember the tracks on. I just remember
Yeah,
playing
there's a
out of
song
these
they do
records.
it twice.
Okay.
I'd love to live to be a million, and then on the next song they do the reprise. I love that. I mean, dude, I can almost get goosebumps thinking about that song. It's so fucking good.
Now, the
It,
first time I ever bought a record because it came in different configurations and different mono stereo like crazy was Pink Floyd's Piper at the Gates of Dawn. So I bought the American on Harvest Records, right? And I became obsessed with Piper at the Gates of Dawn. So then I go to a record store on 8th Street which sold imports, and they had the imported version of it on EMI, and it had more songs on it, right? And so what I bought was the stereo version in the US. I bought the stereo version in the UK. Then my friend says, try to find the mono version. It's completely different sounding. So I bought the mono version. And then I looked for the mono version of, I had four versions of that album. I had American stereo, American mono, British stereo, British mono. That's when my whole insanity began. Like understanding all of the minutia. Now, you know what? You and I can say, well, to the average Joe, they're not going to be that particular. The average Joe, they're just happy to get a product. But you, Chad, what you do is you create a product for a certain level of audiophile. Let's be honest right now. A level of audiophile that has spent a lot of money on analog and believe in analog and believe in the purity. And by the way, to be completely open, my digital front end is roughly a $30,000 digital front. That's pretty damn big. It's DCS, it's Luxman, it's really super quality shit. Like it's great.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my analog front end is a VPI 40th anniversary table, an A95 cartridge going into a past phono stage, right? That's about $40,000 worth of vinyl. So people come over to my house and they listen. And the first thing they do is I said, what's your favorite record? And I'll put the CD on and they go, man, that's like sounds so good. Wow. Your system sounds amazing. And I said, yeah, now watch. And I'll put the vinyl on and they go, what the fuck just happened? Like they go, what the fuck just happened? And I went, listen, I'm not going to tell you better or worse. I'm going to tell you different. And whether the difference makes you happy, that's all that matters, right? Because at the end of the day, if the difference makes you happy and you're willing to spend on it, but that's when I sit back as an audiophile and you and I go to these audio shows, we see how crazy they can be. That's when you fully appreciate how beautiful it is. Now, the thing that gets me crazy is that digital does sound good these days. It just took 40 years to get there. I mean, people said it was perfect sound forever back in 1984, and it wasn't perfect sound forever. On the other side of that, Chad, vinyl has also improved 1,000% since 1984. Every aspect has improved. The turntables have improved. The tone arms have improved. The cartridges have improved. The product has improved. And so it's kept up with it. I'm always amazed at the money and the passion people put in to analog. What do you think the secret is to all that? Why?
Well, as far as I'll come at it maybe at a different angle than you thought, but as far as digital, it's not that digital is I mean, listen, whenever you A/B an album and a CD and the album blows the people away and they're just so they just can't believe it. Of course I love that. But, you know, the album on a way has a little bit of a head start, meaning it's not really digital that sucks so much. It's the compression and all this loudness wars that gives the album, a little bit of a head start. Like they're fucking up the music these days, man. I can't stand it. Now, I don't really like a whole lot of new music. I'm sorry. I'm stuck in the 70s. I'm stuck in the 20s and 30s and 40s and blues. You know, I'm a lot of new music. I mean, I like the bands when you see them live, but when you listen to their records, man, I can't fucking, it hurts my ears. And because you turn it up, why did God invent a volume knob that goes all the way up to 10 if you're only going to fucking put it on 2? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why? These new records, right? You put them on 2 and it's too loud already.
Yeah. But you know what I think it is? Actually, I think it goes back to the engineers. I think it goes back to the engineers back in the 40s and 50s. Those guys really knew their shit. I mean,
Oh,
a
I'm
lot of them learned,
serious.
a lot of them, I was reading interviews with a lot of these guys, like the guys who worked at Abbey Road, and the guys who worked at RCA here in New York and Capitol. Those guys trained during the war, believe it or not. Like they were 19, 20 years old. They're getting into, they got drafted. They took engineering courses for the United States government and they became engineers. And then they went into the recording medium, whether you were going to a studio, whether you were going to be an engineer in a television show or a radio show, and you actually really learn the art of engineering. And those guys that engineer those records, not to mention the fact that those Neumann microphones
Oh,
that have
yeah. The
never been,
U-47s.
they've never been bettered to this day. They have never been better. So when you get like Harry Belafonte, Carnegie Hall, or Peter Paul and Mary, or like Neil Young, Massey, the Massey Theater, like when you hear the live recording of Neil Young at the Massey Theater in Canada, and it's just two microphones, one's on his voice and one's on that guitar, and it sounds like he's in your room. Like he's
Oh, dude.
here, or Dean
Yeah.
Martin singing "Dream of Dean," and he sounds like he's on a stool in your house. They don't record like that anymore, man.
Oh, I know, dude. Look, man, the 50s, 60s were the best, and even the 70s. And what's happening now, man, these new young engineers and recording engineers, I mean, I'm sorry, but they they're shitting on everything, man. I mean, like they're compressing it. Maybe it sounds better on Spotify. If that's all they care about, then fine. But I'm not gonna listen to it. I mean, I played some music for my daughter the other night, and she's 18. She really hasn't listened to a whole lot on my stereo. She's a piano player, but she just, I don't know. But I finally got her to listen to some stuff. She's going off to college. I said, listen, man, I want you to come down. And I played her The Dream with Dean. I played her that Mel Torme on Verve that we did, that Gloomy Sunday,
Mhm.
which that will knock your dick in the dirt, man. I mean, you cannot believe it. I played her the Tennessee Ernie Ford, and then I played her like Tres Hombres, LaGrange, and I played her. And at the end of it, the shit she liked the most was the Louis Armstrong St. James Infirmary, the Dream with Dean, the Mel Torme, and the Elvis. The Elvis, and this stuff was all stuff like done at the beginning of stereo, like 1957. The radio recorders in LA is one of the best sounds. That studio is Thorn Nogar. I can't believe people don't talk about Thorny Nogar. I mean, like, he was unbelievable. Radio recorders in LA did the Louis and the Elvis. Um, well, no, maybe Bill Porter. did the
Bill
Elvis.
Porter.
Anyway, it was all
Yeah, Bill
50,
Porter did the Elvis stuff. Yeah, I
yeah.
think.
I mean, there is some stuff that Elvis did down there. Anyway, I could be, and she liked that the most. And I'm like, why? It's because to me, when you hear stuff that sounds that good, you like it better. You think you think I grew up listening to classical music down in the swamps of Louisiana? Hell
Uh,
no, man.
no.
I
Yeah.
was listening to Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, ZZ Top. And then I learned about the blues by listening to Zeppelin. Where did that song? That's Sonny Boy Williamson. Then I went back, but I didn't grow up. And plus, we have so much music live, Cajun, Zydeco, Creole, jazz, blues in Louisiana, swamp pop, the Sea of Love. That was just a local guy, all of that stuff, swamp pop that came from the Fats Domino, the Fat Man in 1949, and all that shit was created down there, man. We didn't even know but what I'm saying is it's the good shit just hits you hard and it draws you in. And sound matters, man. Sound, and it's like all the stuff you just named. And the new stuff, it's compressed and it's not really digital's fault. I mean, as much as my label's name Analog Productions, as much as we like analog, it's more the compression that they're putting in that making new music sound so horrible. We blame on digital, but it really isn't totally digital's fault. It's the compression and the loudness wars.
Yeah, it's going to sound that way no matter what the reproduction medium is going to be. Look, I have a Ronnie Earl and the Broadcasters album, which was on CD, and
what's the
Blues
band?
and Ballads. It's called Blues and Ballads, and it's one of the greatest sounding CDs I own. It just sounds absolutely. Hold on, hold on. It's it's this.
Oh, Ronnie Earl?
Yeah, Ronnie Earl. And this is one of the greatest sounding CDs I ever owned. The album
What
was
label
recorded
is that on?
35 years ago. So it's all analog. It's on Bullseye Blues Records, I guess.
I
Right?
wonder if maybe Concord owns that.
Yeah, it's on Bullseye Blues. That's the name of the. It doesn't. I looked for the vinyl. I couldn't find the vinyl version of it. It happens to be spectacular sounding. So we all know that it was engineered correctly. And look, to be fair to digital, again, and I'll give you some fuel to even back you up even further. When Stay Hungry was being recorded, I we were recording in LA at Cherokee Studios, and every day Tom Werman would take a quick mix and take it home. And one day he invites me over for dinner, right? So go to his house. He's got like a huge stereo in his. Remember, this is 1984. There's a huge stereo in his living room. So I said, "Oh, I can't wait to hear this back on your stereo." He goes, "Oh, no, 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 no." He puts it on a $99 Sanyo cassette deck on his kitchen counter, and he goes, "That's what I mix for." He goes, "That's what your fans have. And if it doesn't sound good on this, it's not going to sound good on anything." So, ergo, we don't have high fidelity albums. I mean, I am an audiophile, but I don't use my records as a guide for my audio system because they're compressed. They're completely different. Listen, we made our follow up album to Stay Hungry was called Come Out and Play. And it was the first 60-track digital recording ever. We used two 30-track machines. Okay, two 30-track machines at the record plant in LA. And we had a German record producer, Dieter Dirks, who was very famous at the time. He'd done Scorpions and a lot of bands. He was very famous. And I remember he says, "Yeah, we got this new recording medium, digital. We're going to make it all digital, no tape, no more tape, digital. Well, it's going to go on, a digital tape, but it's going to be digital."
I
So
get it.
I said, "Well, what's the budget of the record?" And the budget for Stay Hungry was like $134,000, and it sells 8 million copies. It's a great ratio of cost to return, right? So he goes, Oh, it's the new digital. It's going to cost $360,000. Right? And I go, $360,000. I went, what the fuck? And he goes, well, it's digital. It sounds perfect. I said, wait a minute. We're recording Marshall amplifiers at 100% distortion. And he goes, yeah, but it will be the cleanest distortion you ever heard. I thought, now there's a chapter of a book. This would be the cleanest distortion you ever heard. Like, what
Oh,
a
dude, that's a good tag.
It's a great tag. So, and the album was compressed. Like, I'm telling the record label, can you go back to the master? Can we find the original tapes and do something with it and make it sound better? Because it's like, 30, 40 years later, I'm sure you can improve it. But you're right. I think it's just we live in an iPod culture, or just we live in this compressed culture. Kids hear things differently than you and I
Yeah,
do. When I play
yeah, but
Sonny Boy Williamson, wait a minute, when I play the Sonny Boy Williamson album that you guys sell, especially in 45, I put that on and you hear the sky is crying and he's in your fucking living room. People
oh,
go,
dude,
what the fuck is that? And I go,
uh,
that, my friend, gives you goosebumps. All right.
right, right. The
That
man
gives you
is no
goosebumps.
longer living, and you're hearing him. You want your best records to sound the best possible. Why not? And you're telling me that maybe some of the Twisted Sisters are a bit compressed and they weren't recorded audio file, but I bet you they smoke the shit that's coming out today
Oh, I'm
sonically.
sure they do. I'm sure they
Right.
do one to one. I'm sure they do. I'm trying to get the record label now to revisit those older albums and really try to do something about them because I know that they can improve them. I know they really can today. It would be really nice
Oh
if
yeah,
they
yeah.
could.
But the digital one though, that might be hard to go back and find. Sometimes. But if you have the analog master tape, I mean the absolute un EQ'd master, and you give it to one of the best guys, and they send it to us, they there's a lot of things that could happen, and if they stretch it out to 45. But who do you know who mastered the first version?
God, well, man, you mean like was it one of those like the
Was it
famous
Bernie
mastering
or
guys
Bob
like George
Ludwig?
Marino or something like that? Like I don't
Yeah.
remember. I know it was like so long ago. I could probably
Yeah,
find
yeah,
out.
we could look that up. I mean, hey, sometimes those guys, sometimes they're hard to beat. It might be fucking, anyway, it would be interesting to see. But yeah, listen, man, the thing is, we have some sayings around at Acoustic Sounds, we're trying to save the world from bad sound. But sometimes it's hard to go against the world. And you know, I'm trying to keep, because what's going to happen is 20 years from now, some of these records will be really big records and it'll be good music. And somebody like me may go, man, let's try to make it sound better. And they're going to go back to that compressed, they're building the compression in the master, right? And so there's nothing they're going to be able to do to, people are going to go, what in the fuck were people thinking? Why did they ruin all this whole 20-year block of stuff sounds like ass. Why?
When did your company expand into the equipment? Because if you go to the Acoustic Sounds website, and I'm going to urge people listening to this, if you love vinyl, if you love your vinyls, pay attention. Go to acousticsounds.com and look at their website. It's incredible. The choice of albums. People, where do you get your records? There's no record store by my house. You go on fucking line like you do with everything else. Like that's how you buy your clothes, your food, and everything else. Go online. Go to Acoustic Sounds, and you have a huge selection of records there. And they all listen. I own so many. I own racks of your records. Like I own racks. Like that's all there is to it. I listen to your goddamn product all the time, so I own racks of it. But when did you branch out and also start carrying hardware? Because you do offer amplifiers and turntables and so on and so forth, and of course you branched out to recording and actually becoming a record label per se. When did that all start to percolate in your head?
Well, like I said, we everything's a next natural step, right? So, I mean, we're audiophiles, right? And our customers needed cartridges, they needed record cleaning machines, they needed turntables, and a lot of places weren't didn't have them, and so I've had I mean, for a long time we've sold hi-fi. We've never really promoted it like we should, but I have a guy named Chad Stelly. We call him Stelly, and he's one of the best turntable setup guys in the world. And and we try to um, we this is what I keep saying. We'd rather be number one at something. What we want to be number one at is quality. Whether we don't want to be number one in making records, we want to be we don't want to be the number one grossing pressing plant. We want to be the number one in quality. We can achieve that. I'm not looking to be number one in quantity. And we're not looking to be number one in selling music. We're not just selling boxes, but we want to be if you want a turntable, and you want it set up right, and you want to talk to somebody that's going to find out what the rest of your system's like, going to find out about you and what you like to listen to, what's going to find out what your budget is. We're going to give you the best bang for the buck, but we're also not going to, we don't want to limit you if you really want, the lunatic fringe stuff. If you want the best, we'll find that out too. And so we want to be like people will buy a Ferrari and then they won't tune the car up, or they'll put the wrong tires on it. We want you to get the most for whatever you bought. Like if you buy a VPI, the 40th anniversary, and you don't set it up right, what do you have?
Yeah.
Well, you worked at a hi-fi store. You know what I'm talking
Of
about.
course. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And so a lot of times they're only concerned with what discount they're going to get. Well, the older I get and the more money I make, I realize the discount ain't what you look for. You look to trust who you're buying from, and you want it set up correctly because you want to hear the most of what you bought. Like you don't want a $50,000 turntable set and it's not set up right. You'd be better off with a $3,000 turntable set up right.
100%.
And
Yeah.
right. And so we want to be like, we're real people, man. We're just not moving boxes. Call Chad Stelly and let him fricking hook you up and let him set it up correctly, because it's more important. It's just as important or more important to set it up correctly. And that's kind of what we want to be. We want to be the guys that understand what you're looking for and try to give you the honest advice and set it up correctly. And we know that's the most important thing. And we also want to be a specialist at one thing, that know a lot about one thing instead of knowing a little bit about a lot. Like call us if you're wanting a turntable, call us. If you want, you're wanting to get a good deal or you're wanting to buy, go to somewhere else, But if you want to buy the right thing and you want to get it set up right, call us and we'll hook you up, man. But the older I get, the more I realize that salesmen aren't bad people. People, oh, he's just a salesman. He's just trying to sell. No, when I want to buy something like a car, the salesman knows more than me about the product. I want him to explain everything to me. I don't really have the time. And it's up to me as a business person and a human to trust the guy. You know what I mean? Not everybody's just trying to rip you off, man. No, they're not. It's up to you. Like you think all these biggest guys in the world, these business guys like Tesla or, Elon Musk, they don't have time to figure out everything. They got to hire a guy that they trust to tell him, to break it down for them, to listen. Everybody that works for me is smarter than me. They know more about than me. And I have to trust people. At some level, you have to fucking trust people.
You want to know, Ahmad Erdogan, the chairman of Atlantic, said a couple of things to me that was really interesting. He said if he had a record label with just artists that he loved, he'd be out of business, which where he said, I have to trust the people I hire to find artists. That's what he says. And the other thing is, success is easier if you don't mind who gets the credit. That's a very humbling thing to say,
Say
because
that again.
success is easier if you don't mind who gets the credit. So, in other words, you bring people in, and if they do the job right, you give them the credit. And you don't worry about that your name isn't there first and foremost. Like, you know what? That's why you bring in good people, and I believe in those things. I believe it's so funny. He was one of the most humble business people I've ever met for somebody who was so legendary. I remember going and playing him a demo tape that I recorded of a band in 1985 called Reckless. And I remember going to his office and being all nervous because it's Ahmet Ertegun, whose name is on some of the most important records in history, right? And I'm in his
Right.
office. And I put the cassette in of the demo he just made, and I play it, and I go, "What do you think?" And he goes, "What do I think? What do you think?" I said, "What do I think? Who the fuck cares? What do I think? What do you think?" He goes, "I don't know. I haven't had a hit record in 10 years." That's what it's. And I thought,
Well,
man, what an
I,
honest thing.
right, right. No, I mean, like, I I do the records I like, and I know what he's talking about. Like, and I know what he liked. I mean, all you have to do is go back to the Ray Charles and
Oh
the
my God, don't you? Just go back. Go to
right.
Coltrane. Go to all the early stuff in Atlanta.
Yeah, watch the movie Ray, you know what I mean? Like he and so I'm not trying to make, I mean, he's in a different position than me, but business, he could be in any business, and that advice he gave you would run true in any business. And I like that last line. I do try to give, I mean, I'm not I have a plating engineer. I don't do it. I'm not a mastering engineer. I don't do it. Like I like to say, I don't have to stick my head up a cow's ass to see where butter comes from. You know what I mean? I'm the taster. You know what I'm saying? I'm the taster.
That's that Southern genius statement. It's like, I'm just stick my head up a cow's ass and over butter. Okay. I
But you know
love
what I
that.
mean? I'm the one that tastes the butter
I
and
got
go,
it.
wow, it tastes good. You know,
Yeah.
I don't,
You don't need to churn it. You don't need to churn it. You just
right,
know
right.
that the end product is good. By the way, I want to tell you something that you may not know, but you may find this interesting. Do you know that the Grammys, the LA based Grammys, they're
Yeah, yeah.
opening up a second Grammy museum in Cleveland, Mississippi?
Oh,
Okay.
no kidding.
And they called me up because they're doing it's going to open up in September or October. And the first thing they're going to do at the Grammy Museum is do an 80s retrospective of hard rock bands from the 80s. And they want to know if Twisted Sister would loan them, stage clothes, guitars, blah, 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 blah. And I said, why, of all places, are you opening up a museum in Cleveland, Mississippi? And this is what they said. They said the state of Mississippi has more lifetime Grammy winners were born in the state of Mississippi than any other state in the nation. Isn't that crazy?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that blows me away. I would think Louisiana would, but hey,
Well,
that's a
it speaks to the culture of the South. It
yeah.
speaks to the culture of the area of the South. I played Jazz Fest last year with
No, really.
DeVell Crawford and his band with Steve
Oh,
Jordan from the Rolling Stones, who was on
really?
the
What was
drums.
it? The second weekend?
It was the weekend where it was Neil Young, the Rolling Stones, and Foo Fighters
Oh,
played.
that was the year before
Yeah,
last.
year before last.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
played the day after the night that the Foo Fighters were playing. We played an afternoon show with DeVell Crawford and his band, and it was one of the honors of my life. It was one of the highlights of my life. I've played to bigger crowds, crazier things. I've done crazier shit in my life, but to play at Jazz Fest, and not only to play at Jazz Fest, but to have DeVell Crawford say halfway through the set, and ladies and gentlemen, JJ Fred is going to sing a song for you, which I'm not a singer, but I know exactly one song, and it's Crosscut Saw by Albert King. Like I know
There you
exactly
go.
one song, and I sang Crosscut Saw and played it at Jazz Fest with Steve Jordan on drums. It was one of the high points of my life. It was
Well,
really fabulous.
I'll just say, when you told me you were going to do this podcast, I said, well, let me go listen to one of yours, and that's the one I listened to, DeVell. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I loved it, man. I loved it, like all about the gospel and how he grew up. I mean, people in Louisiana, they're surrounded by it, and a lot of family bands, like the father played, the children play, and thank God because they're keeping some of it because most of it's dying off. But I loved. He was very well spoken. He explained everything really. It was a great interview,
Thank you.
uh, and that's the only one I listened to. So that's
Well, it's
cool,
okay.
man. He
Well, thank you for that. Well, you know what? Because I spent a lot of time in Nashville, I'm convinced that the church. I'm not. This is not a cynical statement. This is a true statement. I just believe that going through the church just puts out great people. In other words, you learn through the church. A lot of those guys, they're the best singers, players. I think that there's a filtration system in the church. If you suck, you're out. You know, like you're not going to be. You're not successful here. When you go to Nashville, you see all those amazing musicians. You know, in New York City, you can walk into a nightclub at any time in the village, and you'll see some really sucky bands, but it doesn't matter because they got 50 of their friends there and they're drinking beer. You don't see that shit in Nashville, my friend. You see unbelievable musicians there. I don't care how old they are. The South breeds a certain level of I don't know, ability and quality and soulfulness and connectivity to the sound. And I love it. I love going down there. I love the musicians. Look, I was a huge Allman Brothers fan, huge Skinner fan, huge ZZ Top fan, Leon Russell. I mean, these guys, I think Leon Russell put on maybe the single greatest night of my life seeing a rock and roll artist was the night I saw Leon Russell at the Fillmore East and the Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour. Most of those guys are from the South. And it was maybe the greatest night of my life. And don't forget, I have seen Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and all these bands as openers. That's how old I am. I saw the Grateful Dead as an opening band. Do you know what the Dead do as an opening band? They tune up and say goodnight. Okay, that's exactly what they do as an opening
who did
band.
they open
They
for?
open for Janis Joplin.
Oh, what, Janis Joplin?
Yeah, they opened for
You got to
Janis
see Janis Joplin and Hendrix, huh?
yeah, so they opened for, well, first the Dead opened for Janis Joplin, and then 2 weeks later they opened for Country Joe and the Fish. And Country Joe and the Fish said, tomorrow night I'll let the Dead close because you people in New York have to see what that's all about. Because when there was opening, they only played 45 minutes. But when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
played the headline, they started at 11 and ended at 4 a.m. And the doors
yeah,
opened. Ah.
yeah. No, I mean, I would. Where is Cleveland in
Cleveland,
relation?
Mississippi is an hour from Memphis. So you have to fly into Memphis.
Right. So is it south of Clarksdale?
I don't know exactly. I just know that it's like because
Well,
I know
I
that
would have thought they would have done it in Clarksdale.
because of Robert Johnson, right?
Yeah, yeah. But and Muddy Waters and all that. But I mean, New Orleans ain't that far from. Well, that's cool, man. It's a nice. A couple of years ago, we went to the Jazz Fest, and then we drove from New Orleans up to Bentonia, and then to Clarksdale, and then to Memphis. So we did. It's not a long drive, and I mean and you get to see. There's so many of the not mile markers. The when somebody dies, there's plaques everywhere. It's called the Blues
Blues
Trail. The
Blues
Blues,
Trail. Yeah.
yeah, and there's just so many of these, man. You see them. Um, yeah, there's well, that's cool, man. I didn't know anything about what you just said, but yeah, no. Well, listen, I we'll have to. I'm gonna be. My daughter's going to Tulane, starting in a couple days, in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna be in New Orleans and Lafayette a lot more often. So whenever you find yourself down there, let me know because New Orleans is cool as hell, but Lafayette's got some shit too, man. You
Well,
come to
you know
Lafayette.
what I want to do though, Chad? I want to come out to Salina, Kansas. I want to see the place. I want to see the studio. I really do. I think I owe it to myself to come on out there, and check it
Dude,
out, man.
anytime, man. We'll show you where butter comes from.
I bet. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing? And by the way, I really appreciate you making time to do this, Chad. I
Well,
really.
first of all, I'd like to apologize if I'm screaming, but hey, listen, man, I get fucking excited about this shit. You know what I'm saying? And I think you and me got a lot in common when it comes to enthusiasm and sharing our enthusiasm. And we also have a lot in common for being passionate about collecting records and music. I mean, I just I'd give my left arm to be able to play. you got something that I ain't got that I would love to have, but I just know that the dedication that you don't get to where you are without a lot of dedication. And I know I don't have it, man. I just don't, I took guitar lessons, and man, when they came to that bar chord, that fucking thing was hard, man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? We all rise to the occasions of what we need to rise to. And
Yeah.
your position is you preserve a medium that needs to be preserved. And you've done a great service for that. So, there's a room in heaven for all of us, my friend.
Well, you know
Okay.
what I like to say is well, I got a good joke that I say, and it's a little off color. Maybe you chop this out, but
Okay, Matt, pay attention. You may be editing this joke out. Okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
The joke is, and I heard it from a Jewish guy, so is that everybody asked me, "Well, do you play an instrument?" I said, "Yeah, I play one." They're like, "Well, what's that?" I said, "I play the Jewish piano." And they said, "Well, what's that?" I said, "The cash register."
Oh, well, that may not make it. I don't know if that will make it the interview, but I'll leave you with this one. I'll leave you with a joke that's also not going to make it. Okay. An Irish priest says to the Monsignor, he says, "I think someone stole my bicycle." And the Monsignor said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I can't find it. I think someone stole my bike. I don't know what to do." And the Monsignor says, "On Sunday, when you give your final sermon, end it with quoting the Ten Commandments. And when you get to thou shalt not steal, look at everybody's eyes, and the person that took your bike will give themselves away. You got that?" And the priest said, "I got it." Following Monday, the Monsignor calls the priest and he goes, "How did it go yesterday?" He goes, "Well," he goes, "I was doing pretty good till I got to the Ten Commandments. And when I got to thou shalt not commit adultery, I remember where I left my bicycle."
Well, dude,
So I don't know. And
hey,
okay,
that raw,
Matt,
that ought to
you're gonna
stay
blow
in there.
two of
But
those out, and we're just gonna end it like this. Now, Chad, give me the pronunciation of your last name if I've been saying it wrong.
Kassem,
Kassem. Kassem.
yeah, I
Chad
mean,
Kassem, not Kasem. Kassem. People go Salina, Kansas. It's Salina, Kansas. And
yeah, they say Selena.
they go
Yeah,
Kasem,
why
California.
Selena? And people say why Selena, and I say why not. But just to finish about the musician thing is, I I wish I could play, but this is another thing people ask me all the time. Hey, are you a musician? Can you play? I said, no. I said, there's got to be the musician, and then there needs to be the audience. And I'm in the audience. You can't all be musicians. We can't all be audience. You know what I mean? So when they asked me if I play, I said, no, I'm in the audience, man.
But here's what my brother left behind. I found when my parents moved apartments, and it is an original 78 Chess School Day, Chuck Berry.
Nice.
There it is. Record number 1653 on Chess 78.
Man, that's great, man. That's awesome, dude. I got some news for you. I got some news. I mean,
Couldn't have timed it better,
yeah,
right?
you couldn't have timed it better. And I didn't even think about it. There's so much shit going on, so much cool stuff that, believe it or not, chess is celebrating their 75th anniversary. Okay. And they asked me to help them with it, oversee the mastering at our mastering lab. Matt Luthens is going to be cutting this on Doug Sachs Custom Tube Electronics. Matt Luthens, we're cutting it off the masters. We're plating it in Salina and pressing it in Salina for the Chess 75th anniversary. And they're announcing it like they're announcing it as we speak. As we speak, the announcement's going to be made. The Chess 75th anniversary. We're picking 25 titles to do, and we're going to do it as best as humanly possible with all the care and the love and respect this stuff deserves. We're talking Chuck Berry. Berry's on top. We're talking Muddy Waters best. Lil Walter, Howlin' Wolf. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sonny Boy Williams.
right, the Holy Grail, the Holy Grail. And by the way,
Done correct, man.
uh, people should know
Trust.
that the intro solo that Chuck plays on the song "Down the Road a Piece," which Keith Richards then copied note for note when the Rolling Stones did "Down the Road a Piece," and I only heard the Stones version first, as normally that's what happened. It was 1965, 13 years old. I bought the Paul Butterfield Blues album, and I bought and this is my introduction. And then the Rolling Stones, I heard "Down the Road a Piece," which then led me to find the Chuck Berry version of "Down the Road a Piece." The intro solo is the foundation of every solo that I record with Twisted Sister. So Chuck Berry is absolutely my bedrock guitar player. And the reason why I play guitar is because of Chuck. So listen, Chad, thank you so much, man. This has really been great. It's great because this is the passion for what I have, and you play to the passion for what I believe in, and you believe in it, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
Hey, man, anytime, dude. I'll always remember you. I know I love your passion, dude. I love your passion. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.